Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we have a vintage Montgomery Wards model 83-7-16500. Pretty sure I got that right. Smoke detector. Now, of course, looking at this detector right here, you may be thinking, well, BA&F vintage, that is not a Montgomery Wards smoke detector. That is a Fyrnetics F900D. Well, you're both right and wrong. This is a rather rare version of, it is a Montgomery Wards model. It's a rebranded Fyrnetics F900D. And it looks exactly the same. As you can see, there's really no difference between the two. They look exactly the same. They just reuse the entire, unit. As we all know, Montgomery Wards also rebranded BRK detectors, such as this one that I have right here, the 83-7-16600. I don't have the cover for this one, but it's the rebranded BRK77R or First Alert SA76RS, and I've shown this in videos before. But of course, as we know, the cover design for the BRK models looked like this. It was pretty much identical to like the Mastercraft models in Canada, and I think JCPenney also used this cover design. Family Guard, I think, did use this design as well, like very briefly for their escape light alarms. So, but yeah, this was the BRK model, as you probably remember. They made an entirely different cover design for Montgomery Wards, but for the Fyrnetics models, for some reason, they just slapped their own label on an already manufactured Fyrnetics unit. They didn't make a special cover or anything for it. Now, the one difference you'll notice on the outside of the unit, on the cover at least, is that on the Fyrnetics model here, the Test Weekly text right there is actually molded into the plastic of the cover. It's actually part of the cover. On this one, it's a little sticker. It's actually printed onto like a sticker in ink and stuck on the side there. Now, there's one F900D that I've seen online that actually has this ink sticker instead of the molded text, and that is Game Alarm's F900D. All the other ones that we've seen, at least that I know of, have the molded text, which is interesting. However, all of the rebrands that I've seen all have the printed ink sticker, which is interesting. The Intermatic rebrands, the Wards rebrand, as you can see, everything except for the Sears ones. As you can see, the Sears ones always had the molded text as well. So, yeah, and now that I have this one, I now have the Sears rebrand, the Montgomery Wards rebrand, so all I'm left looking for is the Intermatic rebrand. Intermatic rebranded the F900D as well, and they did this similar to Wards. They didn't make a special cover or anything like Sears. They just reused the entire unit, the same exact cover, same base and everything. They just stuck their own label on it. Now, let's open it up here so I can show you that label and the inside while we're at it. And of course, the inside is typical of your normal Fyrnetics F900D model. If I open that one up, you can see they have the exact same Kobishi CLB 27 brass squealer horn and the spaceship shaped sensor, or UFO sensor as some like to call it. 5 microcuries of americium. Circuitry is pretty much exactly the same. The only difference I can see is that one capacitor is a different color. And I think this one has got some different looking transistors on there or something. This PCB might be slightly newer. Not entirely sure about that. The date sticker on here is not present on the Wards one for some reason, which is interesting. So I'm going to guess this is probably made around 1977, like all the other F900D models that we've found, like this Sears one even. has it. But then the label, just like the F900D, is right on the inside of the cover. And it says smoke alarm, part number 83-7165000. That's interesting how this one is 1650, but this one is 1666. So they added an extra digit for some reason. I don't know. I mean, no, they didn't. They just, there's 3 zeros instead of 2. That's interesting. And then of course this one was 84-7. So they just changed the suffix for the manufacturer, because the 83-7 could designate this model, or it could designate this one, the BRK 77R model. Yeah, very interesting. And then of course Montgomery Ward and Company Incorporated, Chicago, Illinois. Again, Illinois, which makes sense because Fyrnetics was based in Elgin, Illinois. Sears was based in, I think they were based in Chicago too. Yeah. So, all based in Chicago. So again, makes sense that they would use Fyrnetics as their parent manufacturer, but BRK was in Boston, Massachusetts, so they are a little bit out of the ways. I do find it interesting that these Wards relabeled F900Ds do not show up often at all. There are only a handful that have shown up, and only a handful are in collectors' hands. So yeah, that's very interesting. So now, I got this one used. Forgot to mention how I got this one, the story of how I got it. Actually, a friend of mine sent me a listing on Facebook Marketplace. It was for a fluorescent light. It was like the picture was still installed in their basement or wherever. And right next to the basement light, you could see this hanging there on the wall. Or it was like on the side of the joist, and the cover was hanging open. I think, yeah, the cover was hanging open. It was like that. I might have to look at the picture again, because I think it was, yeah, it was on a wall, because it was like half of the base was exposed. It was on the side of a joist, and the cover was hanging open. Because in one of the other pictures, because I wasn't sure if it was like the regular plain Jane F900D, like this one, the one with the heat sensor, which I'm still after, or the one with the transmitter. And then I got it. When I drove up, I got it from the lady who was selling it. Thankfully, I had messaged her. I was like, I collect these old smoke alarms, and I just noticed this was in the background of your listing picture. And thankfully, she was very gracious and let me have it. And yeah, it was so... and when she gave it to me, I originally didn't look at it too closely. I thought, you know, it's a regular F900D. I got in the car, I opened it up, took a few pictures of it, and then I noticed the model. I was looking at the model number in the picture that I took, and I noticed that doesn't say F900D. And so I took a closer look at it, and I saw Montgomery Wards, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, now I'm really glad I got this one. Because originally, if it was just a regular old F900D, I probably would have just given it away or sold it to another collector. But yeah, very, very, very happy that it ended up being a Wards rebrand. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and give it a test now with the test button. So in 3, 2, 1. It is very low pitched per regular F900D standards. I find most of my F900Ds are quite low pitched, although I think the one that's the highest pitched is this one, the Walnut Sears, that you all saw in my recent video. That one's pretty high pitched, but this one, I think it's the exact same pitch as the F900D. Maybe like a hair higher, although it could be just that one is so raspy that it's making it sound a little bit lower pitched. Let's test them both at the same time now. It's going to be loud. This one kind of sounds like a car horn. I do like that. Yeah, I really like the sound of this one. So yeah, and then I don't think I showed the back. but it's, you know, just like the other ones. No label, assembled in Hong Kong. So yeah, I don't think I've ever seen one of these Wards ones in person, from what I know. I have seen F900Ds installed in person, but of course they could be that I didn't like take a close look at them, and they could have been Wards models or Intermatic models, so who knows. And yeah, obviously since I got this one used, I unfortunately don't have a manual or a box with it to show you guys, but I bet the manual is probably similar to that of the F900Ds, which I do have the manual and box to, so you can check out that one's video if you want to take a look at the manual. So yeah, I think that's just about it for this video. So that is the Montgomery Wards model 83-7-165000, the rebranded Fyrnetics Lifesaver F900D smoke detector. So thank you guys so much for watching as always. Give you one more test. Alright, I will see you in the next video.